Welcome, everybody, to the Just the Tips episode of the Dodgy Punts AFL podcast. My name is Liam. That is Jesse with his really cool retro Dockers jersey on. How you doing, Jesse? How you feeling? You all right?
I'm good, Liam. I'm feeling very retro today. I feel like what you must feel like every day of your life. Very old, very withered. A throwback to a bygone era is what I'm wearing, and it's kind of like my friendship with you. It's a throwback to a bygone era. But I'll stop sticking the boot in nice and early, given you to beat me in the footy tipping this week. How are you?
Oh, look, man, I'm feeling every one of those days as they tick over at the moment. I'm feeling a bit rough. I'm not sure if it's the case of the winters. I'm not sure what's going on, but look, we digress. We're here to talk about footy. We're here to talk about the Dodgy Punts AFL podcast, Just the Tips. You can get us at Dodgy Punts on Instagram. You can listen to our made podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, where all the good things are available, but we're here to tip. And there are two competitions, Jesse. We have two competitions here. One is the regular old tipping competition that you know and love, the classic, the retro style, if you will. And the other is the confidence points, which we have introduced this year. Jesse, give the lovely listeners a bit of a rundown on what the confidence points are.
Confidence points are a mechanism to make the game a bit more interesting. So you have your 9 tips in the round, but you have to allocate a confidence rating to each of those 9 tips, not repeating your number, anywhere between 1 to 9. 9 being the most confident, 9 being I really think this is probably going to be a losing tip, but we're going to put it in anyway. It creates an extra layer of complexity, especially tactically when it's a one-on-one competition. Now, how on earth this would work with multiple people, I think it would be an absolute shit show, but I think we'll find that out next year if we do decide to roll out the competition a bit more broadly. But Liam, you've been enjoying a nice run of form in the last fortnight, much like Fremantle.
Yes, I have indeed. Like we didn't have an episode last week just for some personal reasons, but here I'll give a bit of the rundowns of the scores. So round 19, so going back a couple of rounds now.
20 if you can, opening round.
That's right. Jesse with 5 tips, Liam with 8. Now, I was down by 6. That brought the total to 104 to 101. In that same round, Jesse had 28. With his confidence points, I had 38, which closed that door right down as well, making the score confidence points-wise 134 to Jesse, 131 to Liam. That brings us to this round just gone, round 20, 21 if you include opening round. And guess what, Jesse? Guess what?
What, Liam? What?
It was 5 to 8 once again. Jesse with 5 taking him to 109. Me with 8 taking me to 109. Holy moly! Just like that, it's even Stevens in the tipping competition. In the confidence point side of things, Jesse with 31 taking him to 165, and Liam, that's me, with 40 taking the lead up to 171 in the confidence points. Very happy with those 2 rounds, Jesse. But this round is a little bit tricky. I'm not too sure if you had the same issues as I did trying to allocate points this round.
Just remember, it's the hope that kills you.
Okay.
Just remember the hope that kills you. And this is nothing but playing with my food.
Yeah, I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. I'm a Dockers supporter after all. You never get too far ahead of yourself. You enjoy the wins when they come.
I'm a Dockers supporter that will always get ahead of myself. But yes, I've found this round quite interesting, and this is where the tactics come into things, because now I didn't get the on video right to decide what I wanted to do last week. We decided in our little conversation how it would all work. But obviously a big part of this game is all about who kicks off and who tips first and then who tips second. Because if you're tipping first, you get the first crack at 5 separate tips. If you're tipping second, you get a crack at 4 separate tips as the leading tipper, which then creates an extra element of complexity. So, Liam, looking at this round, and I did and ah about this for a while because it is quite a tricky round through and through, but I'm happy to kick off here. So I'm going to tip first, mostly because I'm not a coward, but I think it's a round where I'm happy to see what you do with a couple of these games that you'll be tipping on.
Okay,
I'm pretty
okay
eager to just roll back. So we'll start off with Friday Night Football now, Liam, as is tradition. There is a West Australian team playing a home game on Friday night.
Yeah.
Will that be the nationally televised Friday night game? Of course not. We've got one that starts slightly before it and overshadows it. Footscray versus Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Footscray have gone back to the 90s. I can only assume that Melbourne's crowds have gone back to the 90s because they're barely there either. This should be an important game for both sides. I'm tipping first here. I'm going to tip the Footscray Bulldogs, and I'm
Mhm.
going to assign them 4 confidence points. I like what the Dogs are doing. I'm wary of the wounded tiger when it comes to the Melbourne Football Club because they almost got GWS last week. In fact, for much of that game, they had GWS, and then they let them off the hook. But the Dogs have seemed to struggle against quagmire teams and teams that really bog them down and play ugly football. And that is Melbourne in many senses. So I'm not sure this is going to be as simple of a win that the Bulldogs would like, but I still think they have the class to get the job done. So 4 confidence points and a Dogs win for me, Liam. How are you attacking game number 1?
I think I'm also going to go for the Footscray Dogs as well. I'm actually chucking 6 on them. I'm going a bit higher with the confidence points. They've been showing a lot of very good signs. Obviously, it's a very important game for Melbourne. It is their do or die, more or less. So it's going to be a huge game across the board, across the spectrum. But if Footscray keep doing what they've been doing the last couple of weeks and putting teams away, then they should have no problems here. But, and I've made this comparison before, much like Fremantle, sometimes the Bulldogs, like you say, get stuck on the teams that they should be beating. They beat all the big teams. They've had a wicked run in the last few weeks. So 6 is a bit of a risk in terms of confidence points, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick by it. Footscray with 6 for me. Next game.
We move on to Friday night, 2. Because why would you have a Thursday night game instead when you can just put 2 games on at basically the same time?
Exactly.
Friday night at the Optus Stadium Lights, it is the Battle of the Coasts, West Coast versus Gold Coast. Liam, you're up first here in a game with a team that's a bit of a basket case versus a team that has a restraining order against leaving People First Stadium, such as their poor form away from home. Who are you taking here?
This is one of those games, right? Because you look at West Coast.
Do you see why you're tipping first in this one?
Yeah, it's fine. It's all right. I think it's an interesting one. I think I know where you're going to go with it anyway. I'm not too sure if mine is going to sway you, given that it is quite close. I'm not too sure if we're at that point now where it's like, I got to get one up on you. Maybe it is. I'm not too sure. But Gold Coast at the moment are pretty much done. Their season's over. West Coast season's obviously over. You look at what West Coast did against Fremantle in the first half of last week. They're running it. They're going to go out there and have a bit of fun, aren't they? Gold Coast away from home kind of suck. West Coast with 1 for me, Jesse. I'm going to go the West Coast. I'm going to see them kick true and finish up the season with at least 1 more win up their belt. Why not? What say you?
Now I had cases either way here that I was willing to make.
Sure, absolutely.
Such is how much I don't want this game to actually happen. I see the argument for West Coast, and I'm not discrediting the argument for West Coast because truthfully, that was probably who I was going to go with coming on air today. And if I was tipping first, that's probably who I would be tipping. But something you said actually strengthened my case for Gold Coast and increased my confidence points from 1 to 2 for them.
Wow, okay.
And that is, West Coast did get up for that derby last week, but if you look at that as an island, their form in the last 2 months has been appalling.
Sure.
And to be clear, that's not to say that Gold Coast are going particularly better, but Gold Coast lost a close game away from home, as they seem to do a lot this year, to North Melbourne. Now, if North Melbourne and West Coast were to play right now, I'd say North would have them pretty well covered, despite the fact they're behind them on the ladder. So I'm happy to go with Gold Coast here with 2 confidence points. They really do need to have a win away from home eventually. It's pretty clear this is their last chance to do it. I think they have to go to play Essendon at Marvel as their last away game after this. As bad as Essendon are going, I don't think they can do that. So I think this ends Dimmer's unwanted run, and he doesn't have the Optus curse quite like he has the Marvel curse. So I think there's enough there for the Suns to get the job done with 2 confidence points.
Fair enough too. Fair enough. Who's next?
Let's move on to the game of the round. It is Saturday morning, 11:45. I'm not even joking. I think this is going to be a banging game of footy. North Melbourne versus Richmond at Marvel Stadium. I'm really excited for this game, and I'm really excited to see North Melbourne win this game with 5 confidence points assigned their way. I like what I'm seeing from North Melbourne. Richmond are dogged, and they will scrap in this game, but I'm convinced now with some of the things I've seen in the last 6 weeks from North Melbourne that they're going to have a big win at some point this season, and I think it's just this. No disrespect to Richmond, they're just not here this season. I think it's pretty clear to understand why their injury list has been, a horrific run. But North just they look like they're getting there. And I think we said this or alluded to this on the main pod that a couple of these lower sides can pick up a win or two late in the season with the draws they have, North being one of those. And I think this is a really good opportunity for them to get the 4 points. Clarkson will have the boys up for this. There seems to be frustration at the Richmond camp this year. There's uncertainty about where players are going, whereas you've got North. Zerha's just signed an extension. There's buy-in within the playing group. I think North Melbourne get the job done here with 5 confidence points, Liam.
Well, what is there left for me to say, Jesse? You've done a bang up job there, my friend. I've also got North Melbourne. I've only got the 2 because at the end of the day, both of these teams do tend to put in a scrap no matter who they're playing. So if they're scrapping each other and they're both down the bottom, who really knows what's going to happen? I actually quite like your 5 confidence points pick. I think it's bold. I like it. But I'm going to stick with my 2. You said everything that needs to be said. That's me done. Who's next?
Next up, we have GMHBA Stadium or Gahumba, if you are a cultured person, a cultured aficionado of the Dodgy Punts AFL podcast. It is Geelong versus Adelaide, 2:35 Western Australian time bounce down. Liam, you're tipping first. Are you going for the Cats or are you going for the Crows?
You know me, I love a cheeky Crows upset from time to time. I feel like they're just going to pull a cat out of the bag, so to speak. Pun actually, not intended, funnily enough. Go me.
No
way. But not this time though. I think the cat's going to be the no. That's not going to fly. I did it again. Oh, I'm on fire today, Jesse. I'm on fire. The Cats are going to win this game. I'm going to move on really quickly before I pull out another pun without knowing it. 6 points for Geelong. They're going great guns at the moment. They're fighting for a top 4 spot. Adelaide will put up a good fight, I think. They always do, but I don't think they're going to get the job done. That's the extent of my analysis because my brain is melting inside my head. Jesse.
We could tell with some of those awful puns and weird tangents. Geelong for me with 7 confidence points. And the reason they're scoring so high on my confidence points this week is, simply put, we're at the point of the season now where you have to put confidence in these teams to get the job done if they want to be taken seriously in the finals. This isn't a year where you can afford to coast to September like Geelong have done so many times in the last decade now we're approaching in terms of years, or 2 decades, I should say, rather. This isn't the season for that. So these teams need to be on at every point. Now, I said on the podcast that Adelaide might be the best ever 15th place side we have seen, and I am fully aware that A, I've said that, and it looks stupid contradicting myself, but B, I still think that's the case. I still think they're the best 15th place side we've ever seen. But Geelong, if they want to be taken seriously, and I sense this playing group does, they need to be winning these games. So 7 confidence points for me. And I think that's really reflective of my broader take on Geelong, where I've got expectations on them and I expect them to get the job done in these games. If they can't get the job done at home against Adelaide, who have not had a good year, they're a solid side, but they've not had a good year, then what hope do they have beyond week 1 of finals? You know, you get through an elimination final and you meet a top 4 side that dropped out and turns around and flogs you because they can. So Geelong with 7 confidence points for me, Liam. I think this is a really important game for the Cats as part of their September tuning up the band, so to speak.
Fair shout.
We'll move on to Saturday night.
We should.
And this is always such an important game for so many people, for so many reasons. Collingwood versus Carlton at the MCG. First of all, over under 90,000.
Yeah, I reckon they'll go overs. I reckon it's going to be
both
huge.
Both teams season on the lines in different ways.
Pendles 400th. That's going to be huge enough as it is. That's going to get all the Collingwood people through the gates that they can. I reckon you'll be pushing up towards 95. That's my guess. I reckon it's going to be close to a packed house. I reckon as close to a packed house as you can possibly get. Because yes, this is a huge game across the board.
I'm going with Carlton. It's not a powerful tip. It's only with the 3 confidence points because I'm very open to the possibility that the Pendlebury factor, the big game occasion for Collingwood, gets the Pies over the line. I actually almost went in and tipped Collingwood today, but I had a one last look at that injury list before I came on the podcast today to do these tips, and I couldn't do it. And it's going to be one of those where, especially if he goes and tips Collingwood and they win, it's going to be one of those tips that comes back to bite me. It's like the Stephen Mill ball bounce in the 2010 grand final. Why didn't you attack the ball, Stephen? It's right there. Go right after it. It's not that hard. But I get the sense this is going to be one of those potentially season-defining tips in our competition, Liam, and very much a season-defining game for these two sides. So I've rambled. I've half justified. Not really. I think Carlton the better side. There's justification. Liam, who are you going with? Because this tip means a lot in the context of this season, I think.
Carlton are a better side. That is correct. Collingwood with 3. I reckon that. Yeah, and this is not like a last minute change. I've had this written down on my little tipping board.
I kind of had you. I had you pegged for tipping them.
I don't think the injury is going to be a big an issue here. I think Collingwood are going to rise to this occasion well. Carlton have been a little bit the last few weeks. I mean, not saying that Collingwood have been fantastic. They obviously haven't been, but there's just something about these games that just raises both teams to a new level. Kind of akin to the Anzac Day game when Essendon play Collingwood. I think with these two teams, whenever they get around each other, because of the crowd they get, because of the occasion, I actually think it's a coin toss, which I think speaks to the fact we've both only put 3 confidence points on it each. But you've gone Carlton, I'm going Collingwood. I reckon that's going to be a cracker of a game.
Before we move on to the other Saturday night game, we have some high points still to dish out here.
Yeah, I know.
And these 4 games, I think there's a couple that it's fairly obvious, I would say. But between 1 to 5, I've only got 1 bullet left to fire in there.
Yeah,
I think you've only got 2 in that range.
I've got 4, 5, 7, and 9 to go.
I've got 1, 6, 8, 9.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. Like, I have gone very, very top heavy. Is it risky? Hell yes, it is. It's extremely risky.
It's interesting we've come to the same conclusion, though. We've both stacked our chips for Super Sunday plus Saturday night. Speaking of Saturday night, we have Port Adelaide versus Sydney in the other game on Saturday night. Liam, you're up here first. This game is the reason that you're going first this round. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Who are you tipping and why?
Jeez Louise, this is going to be this is the thumbnail this week, this game, because I reckon this is going to be another cracker. How do you even choose? Is Collingwood, Carlton and Port Sydney both on Saturday night?
At the same time, so you can't even switch to one during the breaks.
That is not fair. That is not fair, everybody.
You know what we need to do? Multi-ball. Get them both playing at the same ground at the same time.
Whoa, like 2 ovals crossing over each other? That'd be fantastic.
No, in the same oval.
Same oval.
They're crammed onto the field. Let's bring it back to the 1850s. This retro round. We're getting 50 players per side in some field near Melbourne Grammar School. Why not?
Yeah, the field that's like 42 kilometres long, and you just got to kick the ball as far as you can. Go. Cricket's in the off season. Let's get fun.
Jamie Short, number 1 draft.
Exactly right. Oh, we've got 20 minutes already. Shit, we got to get going. Okay. Jeez Louise, Jesse. I think this is going to be a cracker. I actually think this is another bit of a coin toss. Sydney on a bit of a slide. Port Adelaide have had a good run in the last couple of weeks. They're at home at Adelaide Oval. Sydney are due to bounce back pretty strongly pretty soon, I would say. But I think they've got a few injuries at the moment. Port Adelaide with 4, Jesse. Port Adelaide with 4. I'm going to stick with my guns. I was umming and ahhing.
4's a big number.
I know. Just you wait to the other numbers I've got coming up. Port Adelaide with 4. I think I'm taking a bit of a risk. It's going to pay off or it's not at the end of the day, because we're still pretty close in the confidence points. And if these come off, I'll get a nice old lead on you, my friend. If it comes off, that's the big if. But I've actually got a lot of confidence in Port to actually pull this win off. I think they can, given Sydney's recent form, given the fact that Sydney seem to struggle against teams who take it to them, and Port are a team that takes it to teams. That makes sense. So I think they've got every chance to take this one and to put themselves up in the top 4 fight and keep themselves there. Jesse.
I don't disagree with anything you've said. I'm going Sydney with 1. This is the perfect time for Port Adelaide to be playing Sydney. They are coming into this at the ideal time to be playing the league leaders. Sydney, simply put, have to respond. Much like my rationale for Geelong earlier, this is the chips are down type moment for Sydney now, because yes, they will still probably finish the season in the top 4, even with their inconsistent form at the moment. But they are 1 win in 5. Every time they've played a team remotely good, and also weirdly St Kilda, they've lost. And that's not very good. So they need to turn this around. They were also pretty ordinary for a decent chunk of the game at the Adelaide Oval against the Crows earlier in the year. So that's also weighing into my mind. Hence just the one confidence point. It was going to be 2 originally, but I've swapped them with the Gold Coast earlier in the round. So just the one confidence point for Sydney. On paper, they should be winning this football game. However, on form, I can absolutely see why Liam's made the case for Port Adelaide. So an important game here. We've got both differing tips on Saturday night. So I get the sense we're not going to differ team-wise on the Sunday. So it all now comes down to where these Saturday tips land. And if you had a tipped Adelaide like I thought you were going to, this could have been a very fun Saturday.
Oh, you thought I was going to tip Adelaide over Geelong? Interesting. Okay.
Well, you went a little preamble over it.
I did. Well, let's move into
something.
something.
Me licking my lips and change your mind.
No, again, that was written down before, Jesse. It's on my little screen over here. It's all written down, Geelong all the way. Let's get Sunday done. Hey, Super Sunday, who are we starting with?
Super Sunday, and it is a Super Sunday for the most part. We start at 11 o'clock in the morning at Manuka Oval, GWS versus Hawthorn. Cracking little game this is shaping up to be. I'm tipping first here. I think much to Liam's delight, because this is a tricky game, and I've only got 5, 8, and 9 left. So, difficult game to tip here. I am tipping Hawthorn, though, and I'm tipping them with my 5. Now, Hawthorn are absolutely airborne at the moment. GWS are winning games of football, but there's been a couple of false starts in there. They were terrible in that start against Melbourne last week. They've had poor games against the likes of the Dogs in the last 6 weeks. So I'm not necessarily sure they're flying at the moment. Now, they could easily turn out and make Manuka an impossible ground to play for Hawthorn, but Hawthorn have proven they can travel and adapt really well. You know, they've won games across the country. They've won in Perth. They've gone to Tasmania and won there. They win in Melbourne. They can win games. They took it to Collingwood when Collingwood were in their best form of the season to within a kick in Adelaide for gather round. So they're not a bad travelling side, and I don't mind these teams that can travel and don't mind getting stuck in at these obscure grounds. So Hawthorn for me with 5. Difficult game. Wouldn't be surprised if Liam tips the Giants. Can see this going either way.
Mm-hmm. No, fair shout. Manuka's a funny oval because obviously it's quite a small oval. It's quite cold in Canberra. I'm not sure if you know that. But it's Hawthorn didn't start well against Adelaide last week. Like, it took them to the second half to kind of get them up and firing as well. So a slow start for GWS, slow start for Hawthorn last week, but Hawthorn obviously finished with much more aplomb, with much stronger.
With a Canberra gust behind them.
Canberra gust. It's a valley. It's not very windy.
That's a good name for Team 20.
The Canberra gust.
And the mascot is just it's a woman named Gail for Gale Force.
Very good. I actually don't know how.
I hope you're listening, Andrew. I've just pitched a Team 20 problem.
I'm not sure how windy it gets in Canberra because it's in a valley. I don't remember it being that windy, to be honest with you. Like the winters were really nice. They were like -3, but there was no wind chill. It was beautiful.
Really nice.
I like Canberra. Hawthorn with 5. Sorry, I got my 5 on that as well. I was umming and ahhing with the Giants.
Intervention. Mine's a 6, not a 5. Apologies, I misspoke. My 5 was to North earlier in the round.
Fair enough. Mine is still a 5.
Interjection. My apologies.
That's all right. Play on. But I think it's hard to tip against Hawthorn at the moment. They're so fun. Like, the Giants have moments of fun, but I like full fun all the time, not fleeting fun. Give me fun. So Hawthorn, Funthorn. That's right. Funthorn 5 points for me. That's my tip there, Jesse. Let's move right on to the next game.
Let's move on. It is Essendon versus Fremantle at the MCG. We're playing at the G. Can you believe that? We never do that. Historically, we've been dreadful there. The last couple of years, we've actually been all right. But historically, I hate the MCG. And I hate playing Essendon at the MCG because I'm pretty sure last time we played Essendon at the G, someone really obscure like Scott Gumbleton kicked 5. And we were shit. And I think that might have been a game where I think Ty Zantuck, of all people, completed this really obscure. I'm going to have to fact check this and talk about it on the pod next week. Okay. But I can't remember if he kicked a point and it was awarded a goal, or he kicked it out on the full and it was awarded a point. Something really odd happened involving Ty Zantuck in a Fremantle and Essendon game at the G, circa about 2007. I'm pretty sure Chris Conley was still coach.
Damn, that is going back. Is that the last time we played Essendon at the G?
Retro.
Very true.
I'm not sure it's the last time, but it'd be up there.
It'll be up there because they're normally the Marvel merchants or one of the
They
keepers
are
of the Marvel.
merchants.
I'm first. I'm first, aren't I?
You are first.
I'm backing the boys in. I'm backing the boys in this round, and I'm backing them in a big way. I'm putting all my faith, actually not all of it, -2. I'm putting 7 points of faith in our Freo Dockers to get the job done this week. I'm not too sure if that's going to be what happens because it's Fremantle and Essendon obviously have their backs against the wall. But I think at the end of the day, you gotta have some faith sometimes, Jesse. And I'm just going on faith this week. I'm putting my faith in Freo, and I'm giving him 7 confidence points to get it done and not disappoint me. Please, boys, don't disappoint me. I love you forever. Please win this game. Show us what you can do. Hold us up in the top 4, please, Jesse. That's my analysis. How good.
Fremantle with 9. I can't say the words to describe Essendon's poor performance on YouTube. There's plenty of special words to describe how bad they're going. Some would rhyme with hit. I'll certainly have an extra letter added on to hit to describe how Essendon are going. They're not hitting the scoreboard. They were dreadful against St Kilda. Yes, that's the one, Lem. Thank you. I'm just not going to say it because I am of high standing.
I'm not. I have no qualms.
That's okay. These are the games, much like the rationale for Sydney, which was a bit of a weak one, much like the rationale for Geelong, though, these are the games, and these are the games that define seasons. So Essendon are facing their season-defining moment. Fremantle, maybe to a lesser extent, but in a broader space than next month, are facing what will make or break their season. They have to get the job done here. Keep in mind their recent record against Essendon is pretty strong. They got a hold of them in 2022. Matty Tabernar kicked 7 under the bright lights of Marvel Stadium on that occasion. So they do play the Bombers quite well. And I think they're playing the Bombers at the right time. So Fremantle with 9. Before we move on, I have gone and found the Ty Zantuck moment that I was referring to.
That's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at. Okay.
That was. I was trying to do it very subtly, so apologies for the lack of eye contact. Piercing through with my beady brown eyes. It was 2005, not 2007. So Matthew Carr takes a shot at goal. After he kicks it, he's bumped by Ty Zantuck. So Zantuck flattens him. Ball goes through for a point. Now, at that point, would that be a free kick? Absolutely. Whistle blows, free kick to Matty Carr. Happy days. The umpire goes up to Zantuck and asks, do you want the free kick or want the point?
Yes.
So Ty Zantuck, who was not a very good player, kind of thinks for a moment and says, I'll take the point, please. Are you going to ask Matthew Carr? No, you're not. Okay. So that was what I was thinking of when it came to Ty Zantuck in obscure moments at the G involving Essendon. That's really funny that happened, and it could only happen to Fremantle.
It's not only funny that it happened, Jesse. I'm very impressed that you found it in that short space of time, that exact moment. That's very well done. Good job.
Can I give you a little bit of an inside baseball?
Sure.
All I need to do is Google Ty Zantuck Fremantle.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
He only played about 10 games, so it wasn't particularly difficult.
That's fair.
Look, let's move on. I'm trying to keep us under half an hour, so we'll try to rattle through this. 2:40 p.m. at Marvel Stadium, St Kilda versus Brisbane. Liam, I assume we're on the same wavelength here.
I think so. Yep. St Kilda. Your first, Jesse.
Please do. That'd be really fun.
Off you go. It's worked for me twice already.
Okay. Brisbane with 8. St Kilda are bad. The only reason they're not getting 9 is because I want to tip Fremantle with 9 for about the first time ever. And also, St Kilda are bad, but they've actually won a game recently, so I've kind of got to take that into account. Liam?
They've actually won several, Jesse. I've got a few points on you based on St Kilda winning the last few weeks. Thank you very much. Brisbane with 9. I think they're flying at the moment. I think they'll go into their 9th win in a row and get themselves keeping up there at the top of the ladder. Jesse, let's wrap this bad boy up nice and easy, hey?
They're flying so away. Thank you for tuning into the Dodgy Punts AFL podcast, Just the Tips edition. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow at Dodgy Punts on YouTube and Instagram, and also the main podcast on at least Apple and Amazon, also Spotify as well. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next week on the Dodgy Punts AFL podcast, Just the Tips edition.
Bye, everybody.